really looking forward to it. As you all probably are aware, Fintech is, I think, super cool. If you didn't know it, I think it's super cool. Oop, I was so excited, I accidentally hit a button. So our speaker today is Dr. Segun Aina, who's a global leader in banking, fintech, and innovation, with extensive experience in corporate leadership, technology disruption, and enabling innovation. He has served as chairman of the Global Banking Education Standards Board and is the current president of the Africa Fintech Network, a platform connecting fintech ecosystems across the continent of Africa. He's also co-chairman of the Apollo Global Innovation Limited, an incubator and accelerator for innovation. Dr. Aina's previous roles include chairman of Accion Bank, group chairman of Odua Investment Co Ltd, and CEO and executive director of multiple banks. A lot of banks. He is the founder and chairman of Fintech Associates and chairs several boards, including Fintech NGR, Board of Trustees, the Fintech Institute, and AO Global Inc. He has co-chaired the National Think Tank for Translating Research to Innovation and holds board positions at the University of Ibadan at Osun State University. He is a chartered arbitrator and member of the UK African Fintech Investment Group. Hopefully I'll get some financial advice today. An initiative of the UK government. His philanthropic work includes founding the Segun Aina Foundation, supporting youth development since 1995. I don't know if I was born yet then, but we'll count that. That's fantastic. I love that. His interests span fintech, digital finance, innovation management, ecosystem building, and mentoring. We are really delighted to have him come today to share what's happening, his work, and his impacts around fintech throughout the whole continent of Africa, and really super excited to have him here. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat. We do have a Q&A button, so you can put them in the Q&A. Our chat is active, our chat is lively. So if you can check it out, you'll see some links to some opportunities. And Dr. Aina, would you like to take it away with us today?
Hello. Thank you very much, Talita. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but are you able to turn your video on?
Yes, it's been disabled. Can you please put it on?
Okay.
Allow me to put on my video. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yes. Okay. Great. So good day, everyone. I mean, it's evening time where I am now. I know it's just midday, just noon in Atlanta. So I want to thank Dr. Talita Washington and all the good guys in the AUC Data Science Initiative for giving me this great opportunity to share some thoughts about Africa FinTech, how it's shaping the world and how it's going to even do a lot more in the years ahead, and how collaboration, cross-border collaborations can facilitate win-win outcomes for everybody concerned. And I want to recall that the journey to today started, I think, July 25, when I was in Atlanta for a number of days. I mean, I go to Atlanta. It was one of the cities I love to visit in the world. I go to Atlanta 3 or 4 times a year. And it was interesting that one of my guys, Michael, was on the Mandela Washington Fellowship Program at Clark Atlanta University. And Professor Bezune gave me the opportunity to come and address the 26 young founders and business people from Africa, from 21 countries in Africa that came. And that was what started the journey. And of course, I was introduced to Dr. Talita Washington, where we came to Serendipity Lab for your AUC seminar. And here we are today. I'm quite pleased and impressed with the innovation and entrepreneurship community in Atlanta. And I believe that this engagement will create further opportunity to support each other. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to address this distinguished audience. As I mentioned earlier on, the topic is Africa FinTech, unlocking and shaping the future through cross-border collaboration. And I'm going to address this issue looking at some of the things that happened in the past. Some of the assignment that Pandru had over 3 decades in banking, rose to become a bank CEO. And in my banking career, what I did was my focus was on using technology to to provide delightful banking services to our clients. So some of the banks I work with were one of the most innovative banks there. And of course, after that, I moved on to the fintech space, where we created Fintech Associates Limited as far back as 22 years ago. And of course, the Fintech Association of Nigeria, which is the ecosystem platform that connects the 23 sectors that we identified in the fintech space. I will be talking more about that space in a few minutes. And of course, we move on to Africa, where we're able to put together the Africa Fintech Network. And now to the world, where we just recently set up the Global Fintech Alliance that connects the 5 or 6 continents in the world. And I sit on that board representing Africa, and we have individuals representing the different continents, and of course the International Digital Economy Association. Before we move on to innovation and entrepreneurship, so it's been quite interesting, particularly in Africa. And for those of you who know, M-Pesa was really the pace setter and case study across the world in terms of how fintech can help solve societal challenges. Of course, in recent years, we've seen how things have developed in terms of how the fintech ecosystem have been able to leverage on emerging technologies like blockchain, machine learning, deep learning, robotics mechanisms, artificial intelligence, augmented intelligence, to be able to provide, different services that many people that will use financial services now prefer, rather than what other traditional service providers have been providing. And therein lies the importance of data analytics and data science. The simple meaning of data science is a study of data to extract meaningful insights for business. Without data, there will be nothing like even artificial intelligence, because everything is fed of data. So that will be the background to the paper. And in terms of introduction to Africa Fintech, I'm pleased to let you know that Africa Fintech has emerged as a significant force in driving financial inclusion. Africa has the largest number of, financially excluded human beings. But in the last few years, we have seen a lot of progress, driven particularly through digital and data science, and data analysis plays a major role, in driving that. And rather than the focus on know your customer, I believe that data science has helped in understanding the customer more, customer preferences, and how to deal with them, and how to customize customer services. And we have seen that Africa has the youngest population in the world. Is a growing population, and the economies are also growing in Africa, even though Africa is supposed to be the last continent in terms of economic activities. But we have seen in recent times significant growth in Africa. Out of the, if you look at the estimate of the 20 fastest growing companies in the world for 2024, 9 of those countries are from Africa, led by, surprisingly, Niger Republic. And the average growth rate in Africa for this year is 4.2%, compared to world growth rate of about 3%. So there's a lot of opportunities in Africa, and a lot of opportunities for collaboration between Africans in Africa, between Africans in diaspora, and the Black American community in the US, in a way that we ensure working together using data science and so on and so forth to make changes and do cross-border stuff. So looking at the African, a lot of people make the mistake of thinking Africa is one country. Africa is actually 54 countries. I mean, United States is one country, but Africa is actually 54 countries with a population of about 1.4 billion people, and is projected to grow to 2.5 billion in 2050. And by the turn of the century, actually, supposed to go to 4.5 billion people, which will be the largest continent, in the world in terms of population. Similarly, also in terms of the young population, Africa is about 19.7 years median age, and it's also the youngest, in the world. It's over 60% age below 25. So if you are looking for where there will be growth, that is in Africa, in terms of the focus of the world today. Yes, Africa has its own challenges and peculiarities. Apart from being 54 countries, there are language issues, diversity. At least at the minimum, we have about 2,000 different languages in Africa, you can imagine, compared to the US, where you have only one language, which is English. Although I know in some part of the US, Spanish is becoming a predominant language. Even in Nigeria, which is the biggest country in Africa, there are over 250 languages. Some even said up to 500 languages in one country. So it shows you how diverse, Africa is. So we believe that, institutions like AUC, Data Science Initiative, plus other organizations that I belong to, and those that we know have been working in this space, can work together and serve as bridges, helping Africa fintech firms tap into the US market while also bringing talent back to the continent. What is driving African fintechs? So the next slide will speak to the role of data in driving that's driving the Africa fintech. Data science is playing a pivotal role in advancing fintech across Africa, revolutionizing the continent's financial landscape. We have thousands of fintech startups in Africa, and it's increasing. I will give you some statistics. As fintech startups continue to grow, they are leveraging data science to drive innovation, to also enhance efficiency and expand financial inclusion. And let's look at some examples. Credit scoring and risk assessment, for instance. Data science is helping fintech companies to analyze alternative data like mobile phone usage, social media, and so on and so forth. Same thing with fraud detection. We know that cyber security, fraud issues is becoming so endemic. In fact, it's projected by 2025, losses due to cyber security will be in the region of about $10 trillion, as against $3 trillion that we saw in 2021 or 2022. So data science has helped fintechs to be able to take care of this and reduce the instead of course, mobile payment system, which is also very, very endemic in developing continent like Africa. Unlike in the US, where you have banks on every street, only very privileged people have access to banking services in Africa. And because of that, Africans have to be creative, using fintechs, young minds, creating other avenues, other platforms where people can get the required financial services. And that's what is making fintech to thrive. And I put on the bottom of this slide some of the fintechs that are coming up and providing significant value to customers and to consumers, leveraging on data science to customize banking services. And that is why today the young population, I mentioned earlier on that more than 60% are under 25. That's why you see a lot of them use most of these fintechs for their financial transaction rather than go to the regular banks. And we have seen, since we started the Fintech Association of Nigeria and Africa Fintech Network 77 years ago, there was nothing like African fintech unicorns. If you look at the next slide, we discover that in the last 4 years or so, not less than 8 of the fintechs in Africa have become unicorns. The unicorn is a tech company that is valued at over $1 billion. 4 or 5 years ago, there was no unicorn. Given the kind of activities that have happened and the kind of advocacy and support mechanism that a lot of institutions, including the National Fintech Association, have done, working with government, working with regulators, also helping universities, students, and researchers to research into ways by which we could better serve clients. We have seen 8 unicorns now emerging, with Flutterwave leading the way. Flutterwave is valued now about $3 billion. If you read it was in the news about three weeks ago that Flutterwave is actually now operating in the US, serving about 49 states for remittances across the US and also across Africa. So what is important to note here is that these unicorns started as small businesses. Maybe the oldest of these is InterSwitch, that started in 2001. The next one to it would probably be Flutterwave, that started in 2016. OPay started in 2018, and within 3 years it became a unicorn. So you see that the route to unicorn status is reducing in terms of number of years. And what we project is that in the next 5 to 10 years, we'll see multiples of these numbers, becoming unicorns and helping to shape the future of Africa and the people that live in Africa. And if you look at the rise of fintechs in Africa, up till about 2 years ago, investment have been going to 3 main countries: Nigeria, South Africa, and Kenya. But in the last 2 years, Egypt has joined, and we have seen in the last 1 year other countries like Uganda, other countries like Rwanda, Tanzania, Morocco also joining, attracting significant investment, of course, mostly from outside of Africa and mostly from the US. When you talk about the US, mostly from the Silicon Valley environment. And they have seen, so the money is coming mostly from the US, but the money is being made in Africa. And that's why you see almost all the companies you see here probably they all have their holding companies incorporated or registered outside of Africa, even though the business that they make is in Africa. 4 of them are in Nigeria, from Nigeria: Flutterwave, OPay, Flutterwave, OPay, InterSwitch. 2 are from Egypt, Fauri and MTN. Wave is based in Senegal, even though Wave is originally French, and OPay is actually Chinese, but the business is done in Africa. So what this is telling us is that there is a lot of abundant opportunities, for the use of data science to drive growth in the fintech sector, and we see a lot of these happening. And when we look at the future outlook on the next slide, looking at the growth rate that we see, global fintech revenue growth, it's been projected, for instance, that Africa fintech market is projected to grow 13-fold to not less than $65 billion in 2030. And if you look at the other continents of the world, Europe, for instance, we had to go 5.5 times. South America, 12.5 times, and North America, 4 times. So the fastest growth is coming from Africa, and that's creates the kind of opportunity that we see. So the application of data science in fintechs will greatly influence a variety of facets of the sector, such as decision making, creation of new products and services, risk management and compliance, and the development of new technologies. On the next slide, you see there's a quote by McKinsey. Do you know that Africa is home to around 2,600 fintech companies as of 2023? I suspect that they are more than this, but probably these are the ones that have been captured, because a lot of incredible brain work is going on all over Africa in terms of the interest of the young, energetic, and vibrant youth population. So, and this 2,600 is half of all tech startups in the continent. And the money flowing to these ventures is equally impressive, with about 2.7 billion invested in the past 2 years. That's a McKinsey position. In spite of the slowdown in investment into fintechs across the world. Africa is still getting the significant share, and we emphasize that the next 5 years we'll have multiples of these kind of figures invested in the fintech space. A lot of organizations on the next slide show a lot of them that have been doing a lot of work, in the area of developing the fintech space in Africa. I alluded to the National Fintech Associations earlier on. The first set of them were from Uganda, Nigeria, which I was privileged to establish and lead in 2017. At that time, there were probably only about 2 countries in Africa that had National Fintech Association, which has helped in propelling the kind of growth that we have seen. But today, we have more than 40 or 54 countries having National Fintech Association. Now, all of them now under Africa Fintech Network, which is a platform that unites Africa fintechs and digital finance lenders, organizations, and stakeholders through their country association. And we have seen a lot of things happening. One of the objectives was to expose the entire 54 countries in Africa as a go-to place. We are talking about innovation, we are talking about fintech growth, we are talking about investment and so on and so forth. And we have by and large achieved that in the last 5 years by ensuring that instead of just 3 countries coming into global reckoning, we now have probably more than 10, 15 countries that are now attracting investment, that are now, encouraging young people to create stuff. And in the area of creating and innovating and so on, global innovation that I lead is an enabler and incubator. And this is very relevant in terms of what we do. For instance, in the universities, we try to set up innovation hubs, facilities in 7 universities, and 3 others are ongoing, including 2 in the rural area. The objective is to situate those things inside those universities, using the quadruple helix model, where the funding is provided by a bank, and then the university, the university, and we provide the services. In the last 2-3 years that I've studied, we have seen significant outcome from some of the students and the researchers and the lecturers that have been given new skills, including data science skills, and they have come up with a lot of incredible products. Some of these students are still in school and they are working either as intern or student staff in organizations outside of Africa, making money and also creating stuff and doing things. I know that in the area of data science in Nigeria, for instance, there's data science Nigeria that also been doing incredible things in terms of taking data science education to the university community, just like AUC Consortium, is doing. We've seen organizations like African Institute for Mathematical Sciences, AIMS, with based in South Africa, but now have outlets in Senegal, in Ghana, in Cameroon, and Rwanda. Also serving as a postgraduate, platform to be able to create or build skills in data sciences in young Africans as a way of ensuring that they contribute to the growth that we are seeing in the technology space. There are a lot of opportunities for working together between African fintechs, the African tech communities, and the AUC community, and of course, Black Americans in America, and the Americans who, and of course, indeed, the whole world. Talent development and exchange programs. Because of the huge population that we have and the smart guys that we have, unfortunately, some few bad eggs, have created an image of the fact that the typical Nigerian or African project, but no. If you see any woman that's bad, there are probably hundreds of thousands and millions that are doing great things. So the whole idea is to which most organizations are doing now, and government and some of the decisions that we belong to, try to channel the energies of the young ones to make sure that they have a great future through getting new skills that they can use to make legitimate income. That is what organization like Okolo is doing through the Talent in Sync program, where students and others, including researchers in universities, are given skills that they can use to increase their productivity and also increase their capability to generate revenue. So we see a lot of collaboration opportunities between AUC, RISE in Atlanta, and all the other communities and associations that we have in Atlanta area, in Georgia, and in the US in terms of talent development and exchange program. And the African Fintech Network, for instance, like I mentioned, we have 40 countries on board now. By end of next year, we plan to go to 50 countries. And in Nigeria, through our partners, such as the African Development Bank, we are building what we call the Africa Fintech platform, which will be the one-stop shop for accessing online real-time information on anything fintech in Africa. Today, such a platform does not exist. But through a grant funded by African Development Bank, the African Fintech Network, of which I'm the president, is currently building that digital platform, which will be available by next year, 2025, so that anybody from anywhere in the world, on the touch of a button, can find that information in any country in Africa, in any sector of fintech, so that I can get that information and be able to use it, for any decision making that is required. And of course, the next thing also is about research and innovation. Focus on data science can be a vital asset for fintech research across Africa and US institutions. And by working with AUC, Okolo, and the African Fintech Network, we can launch joint research programs aimed at solving critical challenges. What I found out from my work in Fintech Association of Nigeria, Africa Fintech Network, Okolo Global Innovation, and of course, even the Global Fintech Alliance, is that we have different people, different groups, different teams working in different countries across the world, wanting to solve the same problem, the same societal challenge that we have. And what we can do is to collaborate together and work, identify such things that are doing, either be it research or looking at projects that can solve a world problem rather than a local problem. I always allude to the birth of Facebook. I believe that Mark Zuckerberg started Facebook, because it wasn't called Facebook then, as a means of ensuring that students within the university community are connected. But look at it today. The same product is now used to connect the whole world. So what we need to do is to work collaboratively to do a research and have different teams across the world, particularly in the US and Africa, to work on a solution that can be applied globally, thus scaling and expanding the reach of those kind of products. And the US African diaspora community can significantly support African fintech by funding research and innovation through platforms like Okolo Global. Skilled African researchers can collaborate with, and I can tell you there are a lot of very smart, brilliant, and intelligent African researchers. We just need platforms like AUC to be able to move on some of the things that they are doing. So we can collaborate with US fintech companies and academic institutions like AUC. This partnership will foster diverse research, promote knowledge, and create career opportunities for professionals, ultimately improving the fintech space. The next one is about investment and funding opportunities. Even though the investment landscape is improving, but that is still a major issue. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of the funding coming into the African fintech space is coming from, outside of Africa, particularly. And not much of Black American funding is coming into Africa. Yet the market is in Africa, the money is made in Africa. How can we collaborate with the Black American community, Black African American community within Atlanta, Georgia, or America, to create that fund that will ensure a win-win outcome for the investor and then the investing community and for the communities that we serve. And I believe that both Apollo and AO Global can work together to attract investment from the US into African fintech startups and other, innovative startups that we want to. So by putting resources together and leveraging the diaspora connection, linkages with angel investment firms, these organizations can support early-stage fintechs in Africa that are addressing critical financial needs, such as lending for SMEs and payment processing for cross-border trade. For instance, the Data Science Innovation and Development Fund could be created serving as platform for funding innovative data science solutions. And I hope that subsequent to this presentation, we'll be able to have an opportunity to work with AUC to co-create a fund like this that will help to spread, and scale what we are seeing that is evolving in Africa in terms of the opportunities to grow the fintech space using data science. And we can also establish the Pan-African Fintech and Data Science Innovation Hub, which will focus on equipping African talents with the skills needed for the future of work, particularly in the area of fintech, data science, and emerging technologies. On the next slide, also talking about career development, talking about strengthening ties with Africa, collaborating on fintech innovation not only boosts economic opportunities but also strengthening cultural and academic ties between Africa and its diaspora communities in the US, creating a unified effort towards global development. Let me conclude by saying that it is very important that we explore synergies between African fintech and talent and the Black community, the Black African American community in the US through organizations like the AUC, organizations like Apollo Global, organizations like African Fintech Network, and other similar organizations that exist all over Africa, and which underscores the transformative potential of data science in enhancing fintech solutions and talent development. These partnerships are positioned to drive innovation and ultimately fostering economic empowerment and inclusion. And inclusion is very key because when we look at the data in Africa, for instance, while the financial inclusion rate is about 60%, but we see a lot of challenges in inclusion, gender inclusion. Most the female gender is less included in financial services than the male. Some other areas also probably have even 30% financial inclusion, while other places like the cities have 70 or 80%. You can imagine the growth that we see in those economies, and of course, ultimately in the world, if most people in Africa are financially included. And there's only fintechs that can drive this. And it's only when you have data science platforms like AUC that come up with a lot of ideas that can use to push this. So the application of data science in driving African fintech will significantly influence various aspects of the sector by creating an environment conducive to groundbreaking fintech solutions. This collaboration can promote sustainable economic development in Africa while enhancing the cultural and professional fabric of the African American community. I hope these few slides and few comments I've made will provide a lot of insight into what's been happening in the fintech space in Africa, the kind of growth that we have seen, particularly in the last 5 years, and the potentials for even much more, faster growth that we see ahead, and how partnerships with organizations like AUC versus within AUC and the societies and communities they serve and their partners, how we can work together towards achieving in a faster way the kind of result that we want, that will be for the benefit of all concerned. So thank you very much again for giving me this opportunity to address this distinguished audience. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for an informative presentation. Really, yes. Clap, clap, clap. That was fantastic. And I know there's a lot of questions in the chat, and I know sometimes you answer them along the way. So I'm just going to ask everybody who's on, if you could go to the Q&A and put some questions in there. We will get to those in a brief moment. For right now, I'm going to read out the results of the poll. So first, we asked what's your status? So about 11% of us are currently enrolled students, and 89% are graduated or working professionals. And many of the students here are graduate students or seniors, well on your way to careers, so come to our Home Depot dinner data. And then also we have a gender split of female identifying 44% and males 56%. And where do you currently live? 37% live in Georgia, 31% do not live in Georgia, and 31% of you all are joining us internationally. So welcome everybody to Atlanta, Georgia, virtually that is. Fintech stands for what? Is it fiduciary technology? Is it Finnish tech? Is it financial texting or financial technology? Dr. Aina, what say you?
Sorry?
So,
of course. Hello?
Yes.
Yes. Fintech is financial technology. It's a fusion of finance and technology, using technology to provide delightful, convenient, safe, and price convenient consumer product. So the FIN is finance, the tech is technology. So financial technology, that is where fintech has been derived.
Fantastic. Okay, and 90% did agree with that. So that's good. One of the questions was African fintech startups raised how much in 2023? Was it 105 million, 505 million, 1.5 billion, or was it 15 trillion? It was the.
Is that for me? Is that for me as well?
Well, we asked it in the poll.
Okay.
For
Okay,
sure,
okay.
you're welcome to give your suggestion as to what.
Okay.
It was 1.5 million. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. It looks like you just did the calculation in your head. Fantastic. Love that. All right. Wonderful. So I'm going to read out some questions now. Love the active chat. That's fantastic. Somebody says, I'm about to graduate in public health, but would like to do business in the area of education and technology. I know that Nigeria has a huge youth population that I would like to work with. Are there any opportunities to work with fintech to facilitate this goal?
I didn't get the question.
So how can, if you're a graduate student,
Yes.
and how do you, what are there opportunities for, we'll say graduate students or students in general to get to work with fintech?
Yes, there are a lot of opportunities to work with fintech. If you are based, in the US and you want, of course, there are a lot of fintech companies also operating in the US. And I'm very impressed, apart from by being impressed with what you are doing in AUC and RISE, I'm also impressed with what you are doing in Atlanta Tech Village, which is also one of our partners. But talking about Africa, if you really want, Nigeria, to mention Nigeria is the largest country in Africa with about 230 million people out of the 1.4 billion that we have in Africa. And that's where we have the strongest growth. So there are a lot of opportunities to work in fintech companies in Africa. And I know a lot of them are encouraging young people, particularly Nigerians or Africans in diaspora, who want to come back home to work, or even funny, you'd be surprised. A lot of non-Africans now coming to Nigeria to work in fintech companies, and they're doing extremely well and loving the environment and loving the job. So there are opportunities to do that. So you just need to know the type of the institution you want to work with, and we can help you through the Fintech Association of Nigeria, which is the umbrella organization for all fintechs in Nigeria to be able to get you to achieve your aim.
Wonderful. Someone asked if Africa is experiencing such an explosion of fintech startups, is there a parallel increase in cyber-related bad actors?
Of course, yes. It's like honey. Where you have honey, you see a lot of hands coming in there. So the same way, because of this explosion, you see a lot of of course, attempts to attack the bank, and we see that happening every time. Not only in Nigeria, all over the world with the increase. I wrote down the statistics of cyber crime. 2021 was about 3 trillion all over the world. Next year, 2025, is projected to be about 10 trillion. And most of these are going to come from even the developed world. So it's not only in Nigeria, and that's why a lot of countries now, in fact, at the board level, issue of cyber security, are coming on board discussions, because you can lose everything you made to one cybercrime. So of course, yes, there's a lot of increase in cyber security, in cyber crime, but efforts are being made to reduce this to the minimum.
And somebody said, unfortunately, they thought that was the case. And are there any K-12 initiatives aimed at guiding young people to productive communal uses of data science and cybersecurity skills?
Yes, it's very slow though, but there are a lot of efforts now coming in at various levels. Catch them young, in the primary and the secondary school level. We see a lot of initiatives where the curriculum is being addressed to provide that kind of training for young people, university, in primary schools, so that they can start understanding, that there's a lot of financial education that is going on. And layering on that is what's called digital financial education. Because today, in fact, that's why it's surprising. You see today, young people, 7-year-old, 10-year-old, can actually maneuver some of these digital platforms more than those of us that we think we are, digital natives. So the governments in African countries are actually doing that. We just finished the Nigeria Fintech Week yesterday, and the Minister for ICT in Kenya, she came to and was talking about the plan, about what the Kenya government is doing by ensuring that right from the first year in primary school, issues of financial education, digital financial education are taught to young, pupils. And we see that also spreading across countries in Africa. So financial literacy is key, and we hope that will ensure wider adoption of fintech and also create a lot of opportunities for data scientists as well.
Wonderful. So someone says, sir, can an association based in Lagos for fintech aggregators collaborate with your institution for knowledge and growth?
Yes, of course. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. There is a knowledge, an advocacy group, and they hold events and education activities from time to time. And particularly with the innovation hubs that we have in our universities, they are learning centers where we bring the town and gown together to, be able to provide education in various aspects. For instance, right now we started what we call an impact program that's also funded by a bank across 5 different universities to teach and provide skilling for different segments of work. They are going to do it in different cohorts. So it is very, very important that these skills are taught so that they can enhance the capabilities of individuals to be able to contribute a lot more to the development of the society, to contribute a lot more to solving societal challenges and make the world a better place, a much more prosperous place for everyone.
Wonderful. Someone said, in addition to Nigeria, what are some other emerging centers of fintech talent in Africa? And what universities in Africa have strong programs promoting fintech and data science?
Yeah, I mentioned AIMS earlier on. AIMS is African Center for Mathematical Sciences. It's not a conventional university. It's a postgraduate university focusing on data science. We've seen the last 1 or 2 years some universities now starting first degree and master's degree in fintech, in financial technology. I've been involved in helping about 2 of them to draw up curricula to be able to teach these subjects. And we've seen 1 or 2 universities also having postgraduate degrees in data sciences and data analysis. So we have seen that growing within African countries, mostly Kenya, South Africa, and Nigeria, and of course Rwanda and other countries. And we see that trend growing. And the interesting thing is that, unlike in the past, where you don't see many people wanting to go into this kind of area because they believe it's tough, more and more young people now want to go to the area of data science, but they have seen the kind of opportunity that they are in. They have seen the kind of impact that they can make, to develop a business, and of course, benefit from it as well.
Very good. And so somebody asked if these African-based fintech companies, if they're on the American stock market.
None yet. None is in the American stock market. And we see some of them coming, like I mentioned Flutterwave earlier on. Flutterwave is the biggest of the 8 unicorns that we have. Their holding company is, is incorporated, in the US. In fact, the CEO of that organization has also just been elected or appointed to the Council of the US African Chamber of Commerce or something, in the US. They're doing a lot of business down in the US. They're cutting across 49 states, according to information that was released 2 weeks ago. So it's not impossible that that company may be thinking of listing in the US, maybe the New York Stock Exchange or something, in the very, very near future. And when that happens, we see a lot of other companies going in there, because the shareholding is usually based outside of Africa. So we see some of them being quoted in the US, maybe London Stock Exchange, and other financial markets of the world. But as at now, I'm not aware of the young fintech companies. But mind you, there are also, even though they are not African companies, there are a lot of big techs, as we call them, even though they are also fintech, like the MasterCard of this world, the Visas of this world. They are also fintech companies, even though they don't call them fintech, but we call them big tech and all those. But because African companies that are fintech, I'm not aware of any of them that are quoted, in the US yet.
Wonderful. And I agree with everybody in the chat that this is a great presentation. Thank you, sir. And people are saying they're going to be in touch with you soon. And they are, and I totally agree that I've learned a lot in this short period of time, and really thank you for this informative and engaging presentation. Someone did ask if they'll have access to the slides after the presentation. Is that something we could provide?
Yes, sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Can make it available.
Okay, great. So we can share the slides afterwards. I just learned my slides went out halfway through. I apologize. So we'll just put those together and send those to all who registered. This presentation is stored right now on our Facebook page, and it will be soon posted on our YouTube. I really look forward to future partnerships and possibilities with you and the African FinTech Network in bridging data and tech. We'll say across the lake. Maybe it's a lake. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Maybe ocean. So thanks everybody for joining us today. We'll see everyone in a couple of weeks. So 2 weeks from now, which is October 25th, we will have a seminar of fintech happenings in the United States of America. So we're going to go from to America. So stay tuned for October 25th, noontime. Thank you again for this wonderful, amazing presentation. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. See you again soon.
You got it.